Stephen Conroy, Michael Kroger, gentlemen, great to see you both. Stephen, no rate movement this afternoon as we await tomorrow's key monthly inflation number too. I think a lot of people wanting to see what that number is tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I think the Reserve Bank are going to be once again embarrassed by the actual statistics coming out of the real economy as opposed to the modelling that they've been using for the last few years. I mean, they continue to get their forecasting wrong. They continue to get the assumptions they put into their models wrong, and it's continuing to give them poor advice about how they should respond to the real economy. We've got, you know, the GDP is its lowest for between 20 and 30 years. We're in a real per capita recession. We've got our commodity prices are falling substantially. We've got unemployment growing, not surging employment growth as some people keep trying to describe those last set of figures. All of those figures together, so the economy is close to tanking, caused by the Reserve Bank's interest rate position. And the Reserve Bank should be lowering their interest rates. It's just as simple as that. They are just wrong and they won't admit it.
Michael Kroger, so much rests on this, doesn't it? Will they, won't they? And how many times can we possibly see a rate reduction before the next election?
Well, I've always taken the view, KG, Labor needs at least one reduction before they can plausibly say to the electorate, you know, we're headed in the right direction. Because, of course, Albanese said he had a plan to deal with the cost of living crisis. He had no plan, and that's now obvious to everybody. So he needs something so he can at least say something to the electorate. But the fundamental problem with what Stephen's saying is it was in the financial press today, Westpac's figures, which say that pre-pandemic state and federal government spending was 22.5% of GDP, and now it's headed to 28%. It's the massive unburdened cash splash by state and federal governments, especially the federal government, who are spending over $60 billion more than they're getting in over the period 23 to 26. This is a principal cause of inflation. You've got no productivity growth, and you've got billions and billions more dollars chasing the same amount of goods, services and labour. What happens to that? Well, it's inflationary. Obviously, it's inflationary. I mean, Stephen takes the view that the Reserve Bank Board are idiots. Well, there are some very successful business people on that board. Stephen's government appointed the governor.
I'm talking about the actual officials of the Reserve Bank Board.
You appointed the governor. You appointed the deputy governor. You appointed Alana Rubin. You appointed Ian Ross. You've appointed 4 of the 8 members. One's ex officio, the 9th one. You've appointed half the board. Now you're saying they're dullards and dopes. Well, I'm sorry.
No,
you've got massive increases in government expenditure.
The modelling of the Reserve Bank is the problem. And what Michael is advocating for is what all Liberals want, whether they're Peter Costello, John Howard or Michael Kroger. They want the government to stop putting money into the economy so it goes into recession. So they can suddenly flip and say, oh, it's Labor's fault we're in recession. It's a great tactic, but that's what they're actually arguing for. Reduce government spending at a time when the Reserve Bank's killed the rest of the economy and we are in recession. We're teetering on the brink despite government support for the economy.
Stephen, governments just can't keep printing money and spending forever, and that's what's happening.
Let me ask you something, because this is adding a bit of information to what we had last week. The Business Council of Australia, with its criticism of the government directly in front of the Prime Minister. Now, my understanding is that the Prime Minister, after that speech by the BCA boss, the Prime Minister received several direct text messages from senior executives who run the biggest companies in Australia, thanking him for his address and his approach to economic management. Stephen Conroy, your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, the Business Council is now run by a Liberal Party flunky. I mean, seriously, Michael's been complaining to the Business Council for years, and they decide they're going to hire, a staffer from the Liberal Party out of the failed New South Wales government. And a number of these organisations have now got former Liberal staffers running them, and suddenly they're being critical of the government. I'm not surprised some business leaders actually said, just a minute, we don't actually agree with the word that bloke just said. He's just running the political lines that he's run all his life. I mean, seriously. You can't take the BCA's pronouncement seriously anymore.
Michael, are you surprised by that, with a number of CEOs clearly wanting to distance themselves from the direct criticism from the BCA boss with those personal and direct messages to the Prime Minister?
Well, as Margaret Thatcher said to George Negus, which people? Who are these CEOs? Can you name them, KG? I mean, you've obviously been told that. We know how the game's played. Someone in the Prime Minister's told his media staff have told you. Well, which chief executives? You see, one of the problems with the BCA,
right. Michael wants to put them on. Put them in stocks in the main square, Michael. That's what we want.
It's meant to be the Business Council of Australia, but the Business Council of Australia is not an Australian, born and bred council of business, unlike the small business organisations and the chambers of commerce. The members
run by the Business Council of Australia.
The members of the Business Council include Mobil, the Bank of Tokyo, Goldman Sachs, Boeing, a lot of the internet companies. I mean, basically, it's full of companies from overseas. So I bet, KG, those texts have come from chief executive of foreign companies doing what they do in Australia, which is trying to keep sweet with the government. That's what foreign chief executives who are running foreign companies in Australia.
I know Michael does know the definition of xenophobia.
It's not about xenophobia.
I know Michael does know the definition of xenophobia. I mean, seriously. Pauline Hanson, okay. I get.
Oh, for goodness sake. Kieran, you go and find out.
Suddenly they're evil foreign multinationals. The Liberal Party have sunk to a new low today.